Hi, welcome back to Immersive English, where you can immerse yourself in English to a variety of topics. Today's episode, we will talk about improving your confidence in speaking English. Here's a question worth sitting with. What if confidence isn't something you're waiting for? What if it's something you're building, one conversation at a time, without even noticing? Most learners treat confidence like a light switch. They imagine a future moment when it just turns on. Once I know more grammar, I'll feel ready. Once my accent improves, I'll speak up. So they wait. They study. They collect more rules, more vocabulary, more private preparation, and the switch never flips. Meanwhile, the fear stays exactly the same size. Maybe it grows. Because every day you don't speak, silence becomes the more comfortable habit. Your brain learns that staying quiet is safer than being heard, and that lesson gets stronger the longer you practice it. Today's episode is Improve Your Confidence in Speaking English. In this video, you'll get a different way to think about confidence, one based on how it actually works, not how it feels like it should work. We'll look at where confidence really comes from, why your mind fights you before you speak, and how to build the habit in private before you ever take it public. By the end, you'll have a practical, repeatable method. Not a motivational idea, but something you can use the next time you open your mouth to speak English. Let's start with the myth that keeps so many learners stuck. The confidence myth. Here's the myth. Feel confident first, then speak. Here's the reality. Speak first, and confidence follows. This isn't a small difference. It's backwards from what almost every learner believes. You've probably told yourself, I'll join that conversation once I feel more ready. But readiness built entirely in your head, without ever opening your mouth, doesn't transfer to real speech. Think about how confidence actually forms in any skill. A driver doesn't feel confident before their first time on the road. They feel confident after enough hours behind the wheel. The feeling comes from the repetition, not before it. Speaking English works the same way. Confidence is a byproduct of speaking attempts, including the awkward ones, including the ones where you search for a word and pause too long. Each attempt teaches your brain that speaking didn't kill you. That's the real mechanism. Not preparation, exposure. So why does the myth feel so true? Because your brain is protecting you from a short-term discomfort, the risk of sounding wrong in front of someone. Waiting feels safer in the moment, but waiting doesn't build the skill. It only postpones the discomfort, and the discomfort doesn't shrink while you wait. It stays exactly the same size every single day you avoid it. This means the plan needs to flip. Instead of asking, how do I feel confident enough to speak? Ask, adage, how do I get enough speaking reps that confidence shows up on its own? That single shift changes everything about how you'll practice from here. Confidence is built in 1%. Reps? Imagine you just sat through a work meeting. You had a good idea, a clear one, but you stayed quiet because forming the sentence in English in real time felt too risky. The meeting ends. Nobody knows what you were thinking. That's a familiar moment. for a lot of English learners, and it's easy to let it pass without a second thought. But here's what a small, consistent habit can do instead. On your way home, you stop for coffee. The barista asks how your day is going. It's a tiny interaction. Low stakes. Nobody's evaluating your grammar. And you answer in English, out loud, in real time. That's it. That's the whole rep. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels almost too small to count. But it counts. This is the 1% rule at work. Small, daily speaking reps, repeated consistently, build the skill far more reliably than waiting for one big, high-pressure moment to somehow go well. The meeting you stayed silent in and the coffee order you spoke out loud are connected. They're both practice at managing the same fear, the fear of being heard while still learning. Every rep, even a 30-second one, is training your brain that speaking in real time is survivable. Over weeks, these small reps stack. The coffee order gets easier. Then small talk with a coworker gets easier. Eventually, speaking up in that meeting stops feeling like a leap and starts feeling like just another rep. Consistency beats intensity here. One long, dramatic conversation won't build this skill as reliably as 10 small, ordinary ones. The real block isn't vocabulary. You already know more English than you use out loud. If you've watched this far, that's almost certainly true for you too. So if the words are there, what's actually stopping you? For most learners, it isn't a gap in knowledge. It's a habit, the habit of rehearsing a sentence in your head before you let it out. Here's how it usually plays out. Someone asks you a question. Instead of answering, you start building the sentence silently. Subject, verb, correct tense, the right preposition. You run it once. It doesn't sound quite right, so you run it again. By the third pass, the moment has already moved on, or you finally say it, and it comes out just as awkward as your first version would have. This is overthinking disguised as preparation. It feels productive, like you're being careful and accurate, but it's actually the fear of judgment, wearing a more acceptable mask, somewhere underneath the grammar checking. The real thought is, what if I say this wrong? And they notice? The problem is, this habit doesn't even work. Rehearsing internally doesn't produce a better sentence. It just produces a slower one, delivered with more hesitation and less natural rhythm. Native listeners aren't grading your grammar in real time. They're listening for meaning. A slightly wrong sentence delivered naturally almost always communicates better than a correct sentence delivered after a 5-second pause. So the shift isn't about learning more grammar. It's about interrupting the rehearsal habit itself. The next time you catch yourself building a sentence silently, before speaking, notice it, and then say the first honest attempt out loud instead, even if it's imperfect. That single choice, repeated often enough, retrains the automatic response that currently defaults to silence. Practice where no one is watching. Notice something about high-performing speakers. In any language, most of them practiced in private long before anyone else heard them. This is the silent rule. Before you take a skill public, You build it somewhere unwatched, somewhere the stakes are zero, and mistakes cost nothing. Here's a simple version of this in action. A learner sits alone in their room and records a 30-second voice memo, just talking through their day in English. No audience, no grading, just their own voice, describing something ordinary, what they ate, what happened at work, what they're planning tomorrow. That recording is uncomfortable to listen back to. At first, most people cringe hearing their own voice. But that discomfort is doing something useful. It's letting you notice your real patterns, where you hesitate, which sounds you avoid, which words you skip because they feel difficult all without anyone else in the room to judge it. This is the constraint that turns into an opportunity. Recording yourself feels awkward. Talking to yourself out loud feels strange. But that very awkwardness is a sign the exercise is working, not a sign you should stop. Growth in a new skill almost always feels slightly uncomfortable before it feels natural. That discomfort is the training, not a warning sign. Do this daily, even for a minute, and something shifts. The next time you're on a video call with a group, you're not attempting real-time English speaking for the very first time. You've already done a rougher, lower stakes version of it, alone, dozens of times. The group call stops being your first rep. It becomes just another rep, one where, this time, someone else happens to be listening. Speak first, correct later. Here's a fact worth remembering. No one has ever become fluent by waiting until they were ready. Readiness is a moving target. There's always one more grammar point to review, one more list of vocabulary to memorize, one more reason today isn't the day. Meanwhile, actual speaking, the only thing that builds actual speaking skill, keeps getting postponed. Picture a learner joining a language exchange call. They don't feel ready. Their heart rate is a little higher than usual, but they show up anyway, camera on, and start talking. Halfway through a sentence, they realize they used the wrong verb tense. In the old pattern, this moment would trigger a full stop, silence, embarrassment, maybe an apology, maybe giving up on the sentence entirely. But this time, they just adjust mid-sentence. I went to the market yesterday, and they keep talking. Nobody on the call even reacts. The conversation moves forward. That's the part learners rarely expect. Real-time self-correction doesn't break communication. It's proof that communication is still working, actively, in real time, exactly the way native speakers do it constantly, in their own language. This is where action over planning connects directly to English mastery. Thinking in English, not translating from your first language sentence by sentence, only becomes possible through repetition under real, live pressure. You cannot plan your way into thinking in English. You can only build it by speaking. Before you feel ready, over and over, until your brain starts reaching for English words directly, instead of routing everything through a translation step first. The same applies to listening. The learners who understand fast native speech aren't the ones who studied listening theory the longest. They're the ones who expose themselves to real conversations early and often, tolerating confusion until their ear adjusted. Done is better than perfect. A finished sentence spoken with a mistake in it, teaches your brain more than a perfect sentence that never left your head. Now let's bring everything together into something you can use today. The pause rule. Here's a simple tool to apply everything from this episode. The pause rule. The next time you notice yourself hesitating before speaking English in a meeting, on a call, ordering coffee, give yourself exactly 3 seconds, not to build a perfect sentence. Just 3 seconds to choose. Speak now, imperfectly, or stay silent again. 3 seconds is short enough that overthinking can't fully take over. And choosing to speak, even with a rough sentence, is always the rep that builds the skill. Alongside the pause rule, ask yourself these 3 questions at the end of each day. Did I speak English out loud today? Even once? Outside of studying? Where did I catch myself rehearsing silently instead of just speaking? What's one small, low-stakes moment tomorrow where I could take a real speaking rep? A coffee order, a voice memo, a short message read aloud? These questions take under a minute, but answered honestly every day, they turn confidence from something abstract into something you're actively training, rep by rep, the same way you'd train any other skill. That's the method, not motivation. Confidence isn't waiting for you somewhere in the future. It's built through the reps you choose to take today, however small, however imperfect. You already have enough English to start. The only thing left is the choice to speak before you feel ready and let the confidence catch up. If this episode helped you, give it a like, share it with someone learning English, and subscribe for more episodes like this one. Let us know in the comments which lesson from today you're going to try first. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.